next speaker is Mr. Walid ABLA, who is the Middle East and Africa Regional Director with LinkedIn. I'm sure we all know about LinkedIn, a very global brand. And Walid is going to share with us some insights on this topic from a LinkedIn perspective. So yes, over to you, Walid. And thank you very much, by the way, for participating on this session, Walid.
Thank you for having me, Cyril and Farid. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah.
So I kind of wanted to touch on how social media kind of allows individuals and companies to reinvent themselves in this kind of post-COVID era.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah.
One of the biggest disruptions we saw during the pandemic last year was a type of forced digital transformation. Be it like consumers resorting to e-commerce to buy things. I know I bought a lot of things, perhaps some I don't need, or even the retailers scurrying to match and catch up with that demand. Or companies shifting to meetings and trainings online or conferences like this one and adapting to working remotely. So with this high level of digital transformation, social media is playing a more prominent role, and it actually enables people and organizations to amplify their digital presence, their identity, the activities that they do. And when it comes to kind of reinventing yourself as an individual on social media, we're seeing a steep rise in the number of influencers on various platforms and content creators. And on LinkedIn, we've actually seen a rise in what we call the gig economy, where, according to the Harvard Business Review, more than 150 million people throughout the US and Western Europe have simply left their corporate 9-to-5 jobs. They've become freelancers and contractors. So from a company's perspective, essentially, especially those that had to let go of a lot of their workforce last year, they're beginning to hire these gig workers on a temporary basis until they ramp back up to pre-COVID volumes of business. So those are some of the ways that people are reinventing themselves as well as companies on social media.
Excellent. That's really insightful. Of course, LinkedIn is one of the organizations that is collecting a lot of data. So it's great that you're sharing that statistic with us. 150K in the US alone. That's quite an outstanding.
Million.
Oh, million even. Right. Okay. That is definitely some sort of a major message there. So the second question for you, Walid, based on your perspectives, what are the key skills that leaders and companies need to develop, in order to navigate the post-COVID era?
It's a really good question, Cyril, and I think there were so many skills that we needed to acquire and develop throughout the last year and a half. But the ones that come to mind as leaders are compassion.
Okay.
I mean, be it compassion to our employees or our customers that were and still are heavily impacted by the pandemic. Agility is another one that comes to mind. So essentially, to be able to adapt quickly to external forces like the pandemic, which, as James rightly mentioned, there was no instruction manual for or standard operating procedures. It hit everyone fast and hard. And finally, flexibility. And that's what I'd like to touch on a little more, if I may, especially when it comes to working remotely. So, I mean, as we're going through the months, we're seeing a lot of companies loosening up when it comes to workplace restrictions, but we're still seeing a rise in remote jobs being posted on LinkedIn. Actually, I think it's about 2.5 times more than last June. And they account for about 15% of all of the jobs posted on LinkedIn worldwide. Even some of the surveys that we run, we see that 87% of employees are saying that they would prefer to stay working remotely at least half of the time, even if it's safe, like even if we're completely post-pandemic and it's behind us. So what does that tell you? I mean, that tells you that employers that are able to offer these remote jobs are in a good position to attract talent. And flexible work has become one of the top priorities of candidates in the last few months. But and going back to what also James mentioned, one of the very important things is wellness when it comes to this topic, because one of the surprising challenges of remote work, as I'm sure we've all learned over the last year, is kind of maintaining a work-life balance. And despite all of the positives of working remotely or from home, we tend to kind of overlook this downside. So it can impact our work-life balance, and that's quite a big deal. What we're seeing is a lot of burnout on the rise. So companies that want to attract and retain talent, they have to kind of address it. Whether it's by more time off, open discussions about mental health, reevaluating the company culture. So as James put it, what does it smell like in the office, right? And even tactical things like blocking calendars, burnout training for managers, mental health resources. So we're doing quite a few of these at LinkedIn with things like no meeting days and the such. So I think that those are some of the perhaps overlooked skills that or kind of underestimated, that as leaders we have to keep acquiring and developing post-COVID.
Excellent.